Hello, everyone. My name is Yeson Nam, and I'm an assistant professor at the University of Central Arkansas. It's my honor to present today, but unfortunately, due to the snowstorm in the southern US, I couldn't attend in person. Instead, I've recorded this video to share my research, which focuses on the student's perception of active learning. I conducted this research with my collaborators at my school, Dr. Seungyeon Lee and Dr. James Wages. This paper has been accepted in the Journal of Excellence in College Teaching, and once it's published, you will be able to read the full study. Active participation in the learning process has consistently been shown to be more effective than passive listening. When students do something with the material, actively engaging rather than just passively listening to the lecture, they develop a deeper understanding. There are many theoretical explanations for why active learning works, but let's research on how students perceive it in comparison to traditional lecture-based passive learning. Isolaris et al. Replicate earlier findings that active learning leads to better exam performance in introductory physics courses. However, they also found that even though students learned more through active learning, they tended to perceive passive learning as more effective. So my collaborators and I wanted to see if these results apply to other disciplines. So we replicated the study into psychology courses, developmental psychology, and introduction to psychology. We used a quasi-experimental design in which one section of each course was assigned an active learning format and another section was assigned a more traditional lecture-based format. And we wanted to see if their finding in physics can be applied to psychology as well. So we had two instructors teaching multiple sections of the same course. We ran this setup from exam 1 to exam 3. So after exam 1, we did the different instruction for each group. Exam 1 served as a baseline for student performance. Across both courses, we had 58 students in the active learning sections and 53 in the traditional sections. We combined the data across both classes because there were no significant differences by subjects. Most participants were women and white, which is typical in many psychology courses. And in Intro to Psychology, most were first-year student, freshmen, and in developmental psychology, the students ranged from sophomore to junior, reflecting a broader mix. So here is the manipulation. In the active learning sections, students work in pairs or small groups for about 5 minutes, discussing prompts that required them to process and apply the material collaboratively. On the other hand, the traditional section had a 5-minute break instead of the group activities. They also have different types of class assignments. In the active learning sections, they wrote short reflections on how course concepts apply to their own lives. For instance, they might create a retirement plan using knowledge from developmental psychology. On the other end, in the traditional learning section, the assignments asked students to answer conceptual questions that reviewed the content but did not require personal application. After exam 3, we measured students' perceptions of learning through feelings of learning question, which is from the original research, and we added another scale perceptions of activities from another literature. So in feelings of learning, students were answer about their if their perception of the learning, how much it was effective, and for perceptions of activities, participants answered how helpful they found the activities. And we will go over the result. So first, we also measure the manipulation check to make sure our manipulation works. And then there was one item from the original paper that this class mostly involved me as a listener while the instructor presented information. We didn't find significant differences between the groups, but it might be because of the small sample size. And then when you compare the mean average score, you can see that the traditional learning group perceived a little more that their learning was more passive, even though it was not statistically significant. And this is the result in terms of exam performance. So the white circles are for traditional learning groups, and for black circles are for active learning groups. And as you can see, we did observe a quasi-experimental issue at baseline in exam 1. As the active learning group performed more poorly on exam 1, it was significantly different. However, our research showed that the active learning section performed significantly better from exam 1 to exam 2. So the increase was significant. So even the passive learning group, they did not get better from exam 1 to exam 2 and exam 3. But for active learning, they show significant improvement from exam 1 to exam 2. So we could see the significant within improvement only for active learning group. So you can see the active learning group caught up and improved significantly by exam 2, suggesting that active learning was beneficial for their performance. However, interestingly, the students in the traditional sections perceived that they were learning more effectively, at a result that replicates the findings of this hilarious paper. So even though active learning did better, they showed significant improvement, traditional learning perceived that their learning was more effective. In terms of perception of activities, we didn't find significant differences. So you can see that the gap between actual performance and students' perceptions was clear. Active learning helped them learn, but they felt less confident about it. So we also collected open-ended responses to understand why. So some students mentioned enjoying the engagement, that I really like this activity because it makes them engage, or they also suggested that it can be a good opportunity to potentially make new friends or acquaintances. So some students mentioned enjoying the engagement and the chance to make friends, but others did not see the value of group-based interaction. So like I honestly don't think a lot of activity helped me, or they were not sure about the purpose. So others did not see the value of group-based interaction, potentially in the post-COVID context where some students prefer minimal social interaction in class. So maybe their social skills have been affected by the COVID and that they don't like to have engagement during class. They prefer to passively listen to the lecture. So these comments suggest that the mismatch between active learning, actual effectiveness, and student perception. So if you are doing active learning, it will be better to be clear why we are doing this, and then active learning is actually effective for their learning. So As a result, our study confirms that active learning leads to better exam performance while highlighting the persistent mismatch between effectiveness and students' feelings about learning. So we replicated the finding from the original research. This is especially important in a post-COVID era when many students have grown accustomed to less in-person interaction. Future research might explore how to implement active learning online or how personality variables influence a student's comfort with and benefit from active engagement. For instance, introverted students might prefer reflective individual assignments rather than group discussions, and tailoring active learning to different preferences could boost its perceived and actual effectiveness. Thank you for watching my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'm happy to continue the conversation about this research.